Okay, this will be the first video of the link part that's shown here on the left hand side. So to start this, what I would start with is this cylindrical shape right here. So I would just go in and start a sketch, and I'd probably start that on the front plane as well, and simply draw a circle. Again, make sure it locks in on that origin. Right click, do a general dimension, and the diameter of that is 2 inches, and I'll zoom that back out. That's all I need for that, so I'll finish the sketch and extrude that back. And again, I'm going to go back, and I want that to be 2 inches wide, and that's all there is about that. Now then, we'll go ahead and put a hole in there here. It's concentric. I want to go concentric to this cylindrical shape. The hole diameter is 1.0625. It is through the whole part, and I'll just say OK, and that's taken care of. Then I want to cut out this keyway. Now to do that, I'm going to create a 2D sketch on that front face again. Make it a little bigger. And then what I would suggest is just drawing a rectangle. And I'll draw that out here. I don't want it to be constrained by anything at this point, and I'll put some dimensions on it. Now I want this piece right here to be 1/8 of an inch. And it says in the drawing that this is 1/8 by 1/4. So that means I want this to be 1/4. It's 1/8 by 1/4 keyway. And let's see, then we want to go from the center point to this first edge. We want that to be 0.125. That's half of that 1/4, so it's centered. And then finally what I want to do, and this is the only trick to this, is I want to constrain with a coincident this point right here and that arc, because I need to have 1/8 of an inch in this part cut out, and then I would have 1/8 of an inch in the shaft that's cut out here that goes in this hole, and then that would allow for a 1/4 by 1/4 square piece of key to make sure that this link turns with some kind of a shaft. So that's the only trick to that. So that's all constrained, so I would just go ahead and finish the sketch, and I would extrude. And this time I want to cut, I don't want to join. So it's looking for different profiles, and the reason for that is because I've got this circular piece here that I forgot to create to make that a construction line. So actually I'm going to go back and right click on that sketch and edit that, and there you can see it. So I'm going to take that circle and make it a construction and finish the sketch. And now I'll go back and do my extrude, and notice it automatically picks that. And again, I want to cut, and I don't want a distance, I want to go through all. And if I use the through all, if this thing would happen to get deeper or smaller, I would still be covered as far as the cut on that keyway. So there's my keyway all cut out, and I can go in there and change the property on this, and let's go to physical here once, and then change that. I don't know what we want on this one. I think, like I said, I used some kind of gold on it on this piece earlier probably, so if I could find something that would, there's your gold. So it looks like that. Okay, and then I probably ought to save this. There is the link. I'm going to say video. Okay, so I got that all taken care of. Now what I want to do is probably I could concentrate on two different things. I guess let's concentrate on this one over here. I did this a little different in the original, but let's just concentrate on this piece right here. Okay, so what I want to do on that is note I need to find the correct plane to start with, and it should be the Y or XZ. I'll use that to create a sketch. Okay, I'll go in there, and I like to draw rectangles on this. Well, the key here is it needs to be between the outside edge and the inside edge of that hole so that it'll fill in the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is go up here to view, and I'm going to change this to wireframe so I can see what's going on there. And then what I'll do is personally I like to create a constraint. Before I do that, I need to make some edges. So I'm going to go back to the sketch, and I want to project geometry. I want to project this line, and I think that it might do it. We'll see. So now I'll go back in there and create a constraint of collinear between this line and that line. Okay, and that is safe to do. Then I want to go from the dimension. Let's go from this edge, right? Actually, the center point. So I'm having trouble getting that center point. So maybe what I'll do is, because the dimension does come from the center point to where I want to be. What I'll do, I could actually come from this edge, but I really don't want to do that. And by the way, I'm going to make this edge construction. So what I probably ought to do on this is go ahead and create an axis. So I'll go back to the 3D model. Well, I guess while I'm on the sketch I can't do that. Interesting. Well, let's go back to sketch then, and we'll create a line if that's how it wants to be. Let's go back and go to the same view there. So I'll create a construction line from the origin here out this way, and it can be as long or as short as you want. And then I'll turn the construction back off. So it did that as a construction line. So I'll go from this line out to this line, and according to the drawing that should be 3 5/8. Again, 3 plus 5 divided by 8 if you choose. Okay, then we've got to go from this edge to this edge, and that should be the overall thickness is that 1.5, and the overall thickness of the other piece is 2 inches, so it should be 1.5 from 2 is half divided by 2 is 1/4. Then we'll give this dimension here 1.5, and you can see now that that thing is fully constrained. However, since I put a dimension from this edge, I'm going to have to make that a construction edge. Okay, well that takes care of that, but ultimately what I want to do here is I want to draw a circle on that as well, in that circular feature. So I'm going to I could do this several different ways, but I'm going to go in there and draw a circle, and it'll notice it's snapped right to the center. I'm going to cheat a little bit and just put it out there in no man's land. And actually I want to get rid of this line. I don't need that anymore. Now notice my 1.5" dimension is not tied to this edge, so I'm going to delete that and go from edge to edge, because I originally picked the line, didn't I? The line that was going across, so that's why that didn't work out. Well, now let's see, this circle needs to be redefined, and you could do several different things. You could do it with a dimension, but what I'm going to do is go tangent, and I want this to be tangent here, and this to be tangent here. Okay, and now that doesn't take care of it totally, because it can still move up and down, because it didn't lock that in. But what I'll do there is I'll go, I want this center point here to be horizontal with this end point here. If I can grab them. Let's see, so we'll do horizontal, and then that may end up having to be vertical, I think is what's happening there, because of the Yeah, that's what I've got to go vertical there. Because of the orientation, notice my X is going the other direction, so I need to have this, and that line was trying to tell me that and that. Okay, and I lost my 3.5 inch dimension, so I'm gonna have to get that dimension back. So boom, and I could go to this center point if you want, and I believe that 3.625 wasn't it? 3 5/8, I think. Yeah. And notice that's all fully out. It says it needs 2 dimensions still. But what I need to do then is trim this out. And it's still saying I need 1 dimension. I don't see what I would need. Let's check and see. Nothing moves there. Nothing moves there. Nothing there. This doesn't change. And that doesn't change. So I don't see where we need 1 more dimension. Oh, okay. Yes, I do. This line right here will move, I bet. No, it's this length right here that moves. So you really don't need that dimension. So you can finish the dimension or finish the sketch. And then we'll just go ahead and extrude. Now this time we want to go both directions, or both ways. So we'll go with the mid plane. We're going to go the same amount on each one. This would take it 2 different directions, or take it 2 directions, 2 different amounts. We only need the 1 amount, and the thickness on that is 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and now we'll go back and get our view back to shaded. So there's all that. So we'll hit the save button. Make sure we save that. Well, then we've got to cut this end down here to 1/2 inch thickness. So what I would suggest on that is create another sketch plane on this face, maybe, and I'll draw a rectangle. Again, I'm not real critical about where I'm going to put that. What I'll do is I'll go collinear. I want this line and this line and that line. And then I want to go tangent this and that. Now notice it's created all these yellow lines and arcs. I'm going to make those all construction so they don't confuse the issue. And then it doesn't really give a dimension, but I'm sure thinking that this line has to be back from the center 3/4 of an inch. So you could dimension it like that if you wish. That would make it the same amount as going the other direction. So that's, I don't see it, so that's what I would have to surmise that it is. So I'm finished with that, so I will finish the sketch and extrude. But again, I want to do a cut this time. But I only want to cut, if it's 3/4 of an inch, it needs to go down to 1/2 inch. That means that the difference between those two is 1/4. So I need 1/8 of an inch cut out of there. Of course, I'm going to hit save. Now then, what I would suggest you do is do a mirror. And the features to mirror would be this extrusion right here. And the mirror plane is going to be your XZ plane. And that's right through the middle. That's the nice thing about the way we did this one. If we wanted to do mid plane, and you cut that out, and of course hit save. Then finally what we would do is punch that hole through there. So punch a hole and we'd go concentric off of this face, and then we'd want to go off of that edge, and that's not quite 1 inch and 1/8, is it? It's looks like it's about 5/8. It's 625, and it is through all. We'll hit OK. So that's how I would do the first portion of that. So we'll stop the video here and create another one for the other features there. And we still have to put some. Let's go ahead and put the radii in there. So we got fillets, and it doesn't call those out, so I guess we're going to have to go with the 1/8 of an inch like we did on the last ones. So we'll just go in there. I personally like to pick around these corners first, and that makes that blend a really nice, easy blend. And I'll hit apply, but I don't like to give them all at once. But then I'll hit this one, and that'll give me the fillets that I need on this particular section of the part. So again, I'll hit save, and that'll be off of this one.